So can you imagine asking a witness to change their statements behind the scenes, only publicly pretending that you're the aggrieved party? As Adam Waldman, Johnny Depp's counsel, points out, this is not only transpired, but it's transpired repeatedly. Note that word repeatedly. And when one party, a friend of AH, said, "No, I'm not going to amend my declaration," you know what happened? They had secret audio of them dropped showcasing, what the value of a friend really is. And to make matters worse, the coverage on this stuff, it isn't bias. Oh no, it's complicit. I mean, imagine if there were posted evidence of something like that transpiring, and those people that love shouting things like journalistic integrity, they were the ones ignoring this and, well, saying, you shouldn't talk about it at all. And let's say, for the sake of discussion, they don't stop there. They don't stop at ignoring things. Oh no, they go further. They put together friendly articles pursuing a narrative that behind the scenes they've all agreed on. And what if, for the sake of argument, there was, proof that AH and AH's team, they had been in contact with the media, and they had been writing out the narratives for the media, leaking documents to them and on, to basically keep them in their camp. That would call not only the credibility of the media into question, but it would truly make you ask, what about witness bias? What about potential witness tampering? And what about trying to orchestrate public events in order to influence jury pool? Isn't that, illegal? So hey there. So today, you and I, we are returning to that wonderful world of social media and Johnny Depp coverage, and I find Adam Waldman's Twitter posts fascinating because they show you what's going on behind the scenes. And oh yeah, about that tangled web that they love, and I mean love to weave, well, you should see what the spider has to say to us proverbial flies. Now, I'm going to show you where somebody is being asked to change their witness statement in just a second, but before I do that, I want to show you why the media, they're actually not covering this and why they're presenting a different type of narrative. See, as far as this thing called coverage goes, there's this fascinating thing called fact versus fiction. To give your daily dose of fiction, you have headlines like this that accuse Adam Waldman of, well, everything under the sun. Whether that's ad hominem attacks, whether that's witness coercion, all of that, again, is spun into a narrative. While the reality or fact of this situation, it is much more insidious. This, for example, is a narrative that AH produced and media lapdogs lapped up, and you can see right here that Adam Waldman, he's supposedly a prolific tweeter, his publicity hound, whose tweets and press releases about this case, they generally fall into three categories. They have statements that refer to leaked documents that have not been produced, statements that show an utter disrespect for the judicial process, and, well, they go against the court saying not to litigate this case in the press, and they have ad hominem attacks on AH and on our counsel. Now, as far as reality is concerned, if you check out someone like Adam Waldman and the idea that he's a prolific tweeter and a publicity hound, well, you'll notice he has 296 tweets total. Yes, he gets a lot of attention with his tweets, but to be a prolific tweeter, well, maybe you need to have more than one tweet every 5 days or so. Take that and compare it to other people representing, AH. Look at how many tweets that they have. 25,500 tweets. And, well, they're always online. Who's the prolific tweeter in that? I wonder. Now, as far as the idea of ad hominems, well, let's just turn to statements to the media. Here's a statement to the Rolling Stone. This is given by AH's lawyer, Eric George. Forgive me if I leave out certain words here or I change them, but you can see it in front of you. Quote, "This frivolous action is just the latest of Johnny Depp's repeated efforts to silence AH. She will not be silenced. Mr. Depp's actions prove he is unable to accept the truth of this ongoing behavior. But while he appears hell-bent on achieving self-destruction, we will prevail in defeating this groundless lawsuit and ending the continual vile harassment of my client by Mr. Depp and his legal team." So you notice his legal team is put in there too. Now, Adam Waldman, he provided multiple examples of this too, and this is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. I mean, if you want to look up claims out there, oh yeah, we could go on and on and on with this all day, but I digress. And that last idea, the fact that Adam Waldman is trying this in the court of social media and in the media, well, look at who exactly represents A.H. Quote, Powers Court represents A.H. in Johnny Depp legal battle. Powers Court is handling PR for A.H. in her high-profile court battle with Johnny Depp, which begins today, PR Week has learned. Now, the reason that's important to note is because that group, Powers Court, was caught creating narratives for the media while leaking them documentation. You know, basically saying, hey, why don't you put this in there? And if you need anything from us behind the scenes, wink, wink, nod, nod. Hope you're well. We wanted to give you a heads up on the major development in the Depp versus NGN, that's News Group newsletter, aka The Sun, case overnight. I will forward the judgment once we receive it from the U.S. and as per usual. So, as per usual, meaning this has happened before, anything you need, feel free to call Mark or myself. A crucial witness, Melanie I, did not want to give evidence in the UK case, which now starts on July the 7th, because she was fearful for her career in Hollywood. Melanie I is a makeup artist and signed a declaration to U.S. courts stating that she had to conceal A.H.'s, let's just say, marks, all caused by Depp, ahead of an appearance on The Late Show with James Corden in 2015. Melanie I did not want to give testimony in a British court unless she was compelled to give evidence. In a motion to quash the order compelling Melanie I to, quote-unquote, provide testimony in foreign proceedings, her lawyer stated, quote, if NGN request is granted and Melanie I is forced to testify publicly in this high-profile matter about things she saw in a celebrity client's home while she was working, Melanie I's career will undoubtedly suffer. The U.S. Court, which is the Central District of California, Western Division, has rejected this motion, meaning Melanie I will have to testify later in the UK trial. The UK case will therefore hear the evidence of how Depp's, we're going to say, volatileness left A.H., well, let's just say, with marks. Melanie I testimony is expected between 17th and 28th of July. So they not only craft a narrative, which we were saying Adam Waldman was doing, and you can see they even craft a statement that they can put into their articles covering this, but they leak the declaration as well. That's where this stuff came from. We attached Melanie I's original witness declaration, separate U.S. proceedings in Fairfax, Virginia. One passage from this reads, so they tell them what passages we want you to focus on specifically. Then they give you their statement that they want put in an article about it. A spokesperson for A.H. said, third-party testimony is further proof of the injuries A.H. suffered. During her marriage, A.H. was eventually forced to get that DVRO against Depp. He has now dragged her through the British courts in glare of the world's media, forcing her to relive the horrific experiences she suffered. However, A.H. will tell the full story in court next month. Kind regards, Linda. Now, as far as that's concerned, at least in my opinion, it creates a quid pro quo where you ignore things like this, where, you're basically saying, hey, can you change up a little testimony for you? This is about Laura D. Laura D was close to A.H., and it's very, like I say, fascinating what comes up in this stuff. Dear Lee, thank you for making the time to speak today. My sincere condolences again. As discussed, having Laura deposed in the U.S. proceedings does not remedy the issue with respect to the U.K. proceedings. As I understand it, our U.S. team has no plans to depose her at present, and in any event, her deposition transcript would not serve as evidence in the U.K. proceedings, so doesn't answer the problem we have in the U.K. with the trial due to commence on the 23rd of March, so a very tight time frame to remedy the issue. Depp's team is seeking to have Laura's earlier declaration attached, admitted as hearsay evidence, giving no indication to the court that Laura herself disputes it. Do you know if they are aware of or on notice of this issue? This means that it will be used to undermine NGN's case and AH's own evidence. It will also be public, used in open court, and reported around the world. I know from my discussion that Laura, that she doesn't want that to happen and was very upset about what happened before. The declaration they are seeking to admit has Laura saying that AH has never mentioned any of those claims to her. Now, this part, it is absolutely fascinating. fascinating. You have a copy of the amended draft declaration we have prepared with her after she reached out to AH with concern with her declaration went public. I understand from you on our first call that it had accurately reflected what Laura would say if deposed. So those weren't her words. Oh no, they're words that they say were her words, making clear that the original declaration does not properly reflect her evidence, including that AH did, in fact, tell her about those certain things in 2016 and that she believed her and that she felt pressured to sign it. The easiest and most direct way forward would be to submit that or some version of it you are comfortable with. We can, of course, be reviewed and agreed by you in the format of a witness statement for UK proceedings, which Laura could sign and submit. In our system, it serves as evidence in chief. If Laura was not willing to give evidence by video link, witnesses are typically expected to give evidence live and be cross-examined, then the effect of the statement would be to at least remedy or head off evidence damage done by Depp's attempt to admit her earlier declaration. Of course, NGN would ideally like her to give evidence. That would be best, but that is a matter for you as to whether she would be willing to do so. As I understand, they have instructed U.S. counsel and may be in touch. If she doesn't give live evidence, her statement will still have the effect of nullifying Depp's effort to rely on attached declaration. I would be happy to speak on the phone anytime to answer your queries. Please pass Laura my best. Now, Laura D. and Laura D's representation, they turn this down. They say, hey, I've spoken with my client, and while she is certainly sympathetic to AH, our position remains as previously articulated. Specifically, Laura will not sign any further declarations or letters, but she will make herself available for deposition in L.A. should you wish to depose her regarding the manner in which Waldman obtained her prior declaration. Then you have this statement from them, and then you have retaliation. Dearly, this is disappointing given the impact of Laura's declaration in the UK proceedings, which, for the reasons I have outlined, will not be addressed by being deposed in the U.S. proceedings. No doubt the Sun's lawyers will be in touch, and I'll relay this to our U.S. counsel for the purposes of their separate proceedings. Jen. Now, after receiving that answer, no, do you know what AH and her team did? They leaked audio of the supposed friend, Laura D., talking to AH because they didn't want to have to wait. Mr. Waldman brings that up, and he's told, hey, we didn't even know about that going on. Mr. Waldman, I received your message. First, my client is unaware of any recording and, to my knowledge, never consented to being recorded. ASO, as far as I'm concerned, any such recording, if indeed there is one of my client, would be in violation of California Penal Code 632. Second, I have previously advised my client for the Sun that she had the opportunity to make changes to the declaration and that the matters stated in her declaration were true and correct to the best of her knowledge. Now, this is an argument that AH's team actually utilized in court, saying if Mr. Waldman is asking witnesses to change their testimony, if he's asking them to change their accounts of what happened, if he's making threats against them, if they don't testify the way he wants or offering benefits if they do, that's going straight to witness credibility and witness bias and potential witness tampering. If he's violating the protective order by leaking material, which he has, if he's trying to influence the jury pool by orchestrating these public campaigns against AH, those are all relevant to this case and to Mr. Depp's claims against AH in particular and her defenses. So all of this stuff, they admit, is wrong. They admit the stuff that they're doing, it actually does work into the case. And, well, the media, they covered this stuff, and they covered all of those other narratives, but they've been woefully silent when all of this other stuff comes up. Says something, doesn't it? But anyway, I thought I would leave you with this. I thought it was rather fascinating, but let me know what you think about this in the comments. And as always, thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. You make these endeavors possible. No one else does. You make it possible. So thank you. I appreciate you. And if you want to help the channel out, well, there are many ways to do so. We have memberships, we have merchandise, we have a Patreon and on, but we also have our comic book. That is the thing that if you want to back something or want to help out, that is the one thing that sends a really, really good message out there saying we can create something. We don't need those people out there. We need you. So if you want to help us out that way, thank you. Appreciate you. But I appreciate you anyway. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.